My husband tried to steal my $109 million company when I was in coma. My revenge sent him straight into coma. I woke to a sharp beep, and my fingers felt like strangers. Machines hummed and lights blinked. I wanted to call out, but my throat was dry and heavy. Through the glass I saw him, my husband, signing papers at the edge of my bed. His hand moved fast, the pen scratching like a thief. My chest tightened. I tried to move my arm, and a lead and tape tugged at my skin. The monitor spiked and a nurse rushed in. He looked up then, his face flickering, a small freeze that I caught before he smiled and lied to the staff. When my eyes opened fully, he did not speak the words I expected. He said calm things about handling things and taking care of the company. Inside, I felt a cold drop. He thought I was out. He thought I would never see. My mind blurred, but one thing landed like a stone. He was signing my fortune away while I slept. Hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. I lay in the white room pretending I was weaker than I was. My body really hurt, but my thoughts were sharp as broken glass. I heard him on the phone in the visitor's chair, voice low and proud. "Finally," he said. "It's all moving to my name. She won't wake up in time." I kept my eyes closed and breath slow. I let him brag. He did not know I could hear every word. Nurses came and went, bringing water, adjusting pillows, asking if I needed rest. I answered with a soft murmur that sounded like sleep. He laughed once and told a friend he had already told the board I had asked him to handle things. The rhythm of his calm voice built a fire in my chest. I wanted to scream, but my legs were weak and tubes kept me pinned. I heard him promise the mistress a new life and count money like a child. I held my breath until my lungs burned, storing up rage into a small, steady coal. I vowed to keep that coal safe until I could use its heat. He lied to everyone with ease. I heard him from my bed as he spoke to my lawyer down the hall and to board members at the company. He said I had begged him to take charge because I feared dying. He signed things in my name and stamped them like final gospel. People I trusted nodded and believed him. They spoke of my recovery in the same soft, pitying tone he used. I listened and felt the world tilt. My own lawyer hadn't been the same man I had hired for 10 years. He had been replaced with a smiling, smooth man who wore my husband's colors. When a nurse brought me a chart, a note showed changes to company signatories. My company, my blood and nights and empty pizza boxes, was being rerouted. I pretended to sleep as he gave interviews and shook other men's hands in the hallway. I watched him from a corner of my mind and planned small steps. If he thought I was helpless, he had not met the kind of stubborn that builds businesses in garages. I remembered the garage. I remembered the first soldered board that burned my thumb and the nights we ate cold eggs while I coded. I had started with a cheap lamp and a dream, and I had grown my company into a living engine. He had stood beside me then with a smile that matched mine. He carried boxes and fetched coffee and believed in my stubborn ideas. We celebrated small wins with cheap wine and laughter in the kitchen. Money changed us slowly like rust and rain. At first the money meant freedom, better tools, a tiny office, employees who stayed. Then his jokes about our future grew into lists and maps. A bigger car, a house on the hill, names on papers. I remembered when he first asked about shares and control like it was casual. I had trusted him. I had thought love meant partnership. That belief had been my armor, and he had used my trust like a key. The same hand that once lifted boxes now lifted signatures. The memory burned and mixed with the live hurt in hospital light, and I felt older, cleverer, angrier. A nurse leaned in once, while he was at the vending machine, and whispered like a secret into my ear. "He keeps bringing papers and asking me to place things for you to sign," she said, voice small. "He says he'll get them later. Sometimes he slips the pen, so it looks like your hand moved." I closed my eyes and let the world tilt as if on an unseen hinge. The nurse told me about little things. Stamp forms, signatures traced the same way as mine, a handwriting I had taught him when teaching Bree to sign her name. She said she had thought I wanted help, but then she noticed patterns. I had trusted this woman with my life hours ago, and now this woman was giving me pieces of truth. I had thought the hospital would be safe. Instead, it was a stage. My husband had used my coma like a quiet room for his theft. The nurse's breath hitched when she told me about the night he came with a folder and left it by my bed. "I moved it to the locker for safety," she said. I felt something turn in me. The coal inside grew hotter. I learned a new sound that week, his soft laugh over the phone when he thought I couldn't hear. He leaned in the visitor chair and spoke about plans with a woman I had never met. "Once it's all in my name, we'll disappear," he said, voice low and sure. I felt the words like nails. I pretended to sleep and let him finish. The woman's voice was bright in my memory later, like a song that didn't belong. I heard him name places, houses, and that diamond bracelet he promised. My hands itched to move and my voice wanted to cry, but my body obeyed the machines. The room smelled of soap and hospital air, but a bitter taste sat behind my teeth. He traced possible new signatures and timelines as if he were mapping treasure. The nurse walked in at one point, and he smiled at her like a man who owns kindness. My stomach turned. I collected every syllable and held them like evidence. In the silence after his call, I planned small steps that would grow into a storm. One morning my lawyer arrived, looking pale and shocked. He had been my rock for years. He looked at me, and then at my husband with a question that did not need words. He told me, later he had been pushed aside. My husband had hired a new man with slick hair and an empty smile to help. That man had changed signatories and cut me out of electronic access. I felt betrayed by more than my husband, by the legal house I had trusted. I found out I had less control than before. The nurse said my laptop and phone were missing from my locker. Someone had taken them the night before, when the ward was quiet. My heart dropped. The locker was supposed to be safe. I had kept passwords and drafts there. I had planned launches and messages in that machine. The thought that my own voice could be erased while I lay there sick made me tremble. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe steady. They thought they had silenced me. They had not. The locker was empty, and my company files were gone. I remembered the blue case with project timelines and investor notes. It had been my map for years. Now there was only a sticky label and a silence. I felt a hot, angry knot in my throat. I tried to stand and the room tilted. Nurses told me to rest, but rest felt wrong. I had trusted my team and they were scattered. My phone backups were missing too, like someone had scrubbed them. I tried to call my COO and the number went to a stranger's voicemail. My email was locked. Whoever had taken my things had also taken my voice. I thought of all the nights I had stayed late in the lab, hands raw from solder, eyes blurry with plans. Those nights had been building something real. Now a man in a suit was erasing the years with a few strokes of ink. I felt small and fierce at once. I whispered a promise into the pillow they would not win. The nurse brought me a small, secret miracle. She rolled in a tablet with a shy smile and said, "IT found this for you." The hospital IT guy was an old employee, a quiet, clever man I had hired years ago. He had watched me grow like I had watched him learn. He sat by my bed with a steady hand and said he could try to recover deleted footage and files from the hospital cameras. He worked with slow fingers that moved like a pianist, and soon there were images on the screen. There I was, fragile and pale, and there he was, my husband, slipping folders beside my bed at night. The footage showed him alone and confident. He left with a face like a man who had done nothing wrong. It was proof that someone had been bringing papers and leaving them. My throat tightened. The IT men also found a deleted email that hinted someone had tried to contact my COO about changes. I felt less alone. The coal in my chest glowed warmer. I would need more than footage, but this was a start. Later that day, a woman in a white dress walked into the ward like sun. She wore a diamond bracelet that flashed with the hospital lights. My heart dropped. She was a voice from his calls, the mistress. She smiled and leaned against the visitor chair like she belonged. She wore my company logo on a charm and laughed when a nurse asked if she needed water. The sight of her made my head spin. She seemed to own the room. I watched her from the corner of my eye and felt a new kind of betrayal. He hadn't just stolen my money. He had promised parts of me to someone else. The nurse who had helped me watched them both and whispered, "She brings gifts. He brings papers." I forced myself to look calm, to breathe like a woman with patience. Then I remembered the footage the IT man pulled. I would need the mistress to reveal more with her careless confidence. People like her love to show off. Pride makes mistakes. I planned to wait and watch. Each day the hospital lights felt less heavy. My legs trembled when I tried to stand, but I kept pushing, gripping the rail until my knuckles hurt. I told the nurses I wanted to walk, even when pain burned through my ribs. In truth, the pain helped me stay awake. Every step was anger turned into muscle. Each breath felt like a promise. My husband visited, less now that papers were handled, and when he did come, he spoke loudly to staff about stress and responsibility. I stayed quiet, letting him believe I was broken. The IT man watched my progress with soft eyes, and the nurse whispered encouragement. I was learning to move again, but more than that, I was learning to focus. Vengeance needed strength. My heartbeat steadied each time I walked the length of the hall. At night, alone, I pictured my company, my staff, my dreams, everything he tried to take. I built the fire inside my chest with each shaky step. I swore that once I stood tall again, he would fall harder than he ever dreamed. When I finally held a pen again, my hand shook, but I could type a few letters on the IT man's hidden phone. I wrote a secret email to my COO, the one executive who had stayed loyal to me since the garage days. I kept my words simple. I am awake. Do not trust anything he says. Within hours, I got a cautious reply. The board had already been told I suffered long-term brain damage. A vote was planned to remove me forever. My COO didn't believe the story, but had been blocked from company servers. My husband had replaced whole teams with his own people. Even HR had been reshaped to follow him. Reading those lines made heat climb my spine. My COO promised to help from the shadows, but warned me to move fast. If the vote happened, my name would be torn off the company walls. I thanked them quietly, my hands trembling. This was no simple betrayal. This was a stage takeover. For a moment, I felt fear. Then the coal inside me glowed again, brighter than before. One afternoon, the TV in the visitor lounge showed my husband standing behind a podium, reporters clapping cameras at him. His voice filled the hall. My wife is mentally unstable after her trauma. She asked me to manage the company for her safety. The words hit me like cold water. He spoke of me like a ghost who could not think. He called himself my protector, my guide. People nodded as if he was noble. He explained my coma like it was a problem he alone had solved. I studied his face on the screen. Smooth, brave, lying. The nurse beside me clenched her jaw. The IT man shut off the screen and whispered, "You'll fix this." I felt a strange calmness settle into my bones. He had gone public with lies. That meant when truth rose, it would drown him fast. Rage moved through me, slow and steady. He had turned my suffering into his stage. I closed my eyes and stored the pain for later. At the perfect moment, I would return it to him, interest included. If you're hooked, hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. The IT man brought me something new, blurry footage of my car before the crash. He enhanced it frame by frame until a shape appeared under the hood. A device. Wires. Something placed there. My breath froze. The crash that sent me into a coma wasn't an accident. My heart thudded in my chest as he showed me the angles. A dark figure crouched near my car the night before I drove it. I knew his shape. I knew his coat. My husband's betrayal wasn't only greed, it was attempted murder. My fingers twisted in the bed sheets. The nurse saw my face and touched my shoulder gently. "You're safe now," she whispered, but safety felt far away. Now everything made awful sense. The sudden paperwork, the rush to transfer shares, the mistress waiting for her prize. He had planned to bury me and inherit everything. My mouth went dry. I stared at the footage until the screen dimmed. I felt tears rise, but I forced them back. I would not cry for him. I whispered to myself, he wanted me gone. Instead, I woke up. The mistress made her first mistake on social media. She posted a picture on a private jet, wearing jewelry I designed years ago, a bracelet from a charity line I created. The caption was a simple heart, but the location tag matched my company's aircraft. She didn't know the internet loved clues. Comments exploded under the post. "Isn't that the founder's jet? Why is she wearing the CEO's wife's bracelet?" The IT men showed me the screenshots, and my stomach twisted in disgust. My husband had flown her around in my jet using company money. Reporters started circling the story. Rumors swelled like storms. Even board members began to question him quietly. Each screenshot became another crack in his perfect mask. I saved every one. Evidence was stacking itself like a gift at my feet. The mistress kept posting pictures, dinners, hotel rooms, gifts bought with my accounts. Each post was a confession wrapped in glitter. I felt my strength return inch by inch. Their greed was exposing itself faster than I could ask for. And I was almost ready to strike. My real lawyer finally found a path back into my life. He slipped into my hospital room late in the afternoon, his face tight with worry. "Your husband replaced me," he whispered, "and submitted a new will." He handed me a copy, my signature forged across the bottom. In the fake will, everything I owned, including my company, would go to him. Not my family, not charity, only him. I felt the air leave my lungs. My lawyer pointed at the signature lines. "He tried to mimic your handwriting, but he doesn't know your old loops. These curves here?" He slipped. Even as my blood boiled, I felt grateful. Now the fraud was clear. My lawyer promised to work quietly, gathering proof before confronting him. He told me he'd seen men like my husband, smooth talkers with steady hands who crumble when truth hits them. He tapped the file lightly. "This alone is enough to ruin him. But combined with everything else, it's a disaster waiting to fall on his head." I nodded slowly. The puzzle pieces were building a picture I would soon use against him. The nurse who had first warned me entered my room with trembling hands. Her face looked pale. She sat beside me and whispered a secret she had held too long. "He paid me," she confessed, eyes filling with tears. "He asked me to keep you sedated. He said it was for your comfort, but then he asked me to increase the dose." She wiped her face and shook her head. "I thought he wanted to ease your pain. But now I know he wanted time. More time before you woke." For a moment, the room felt colder. Attempted murder wasn't a question anymore. It was real and standing beside my bed. She begged me to forgive her. I didn't speak for several seconds as my heart hammered in my chest. At last, I touched her hand. "Help me now," I whispered. She nodded quickly, relief pouring over her face. She offered to testify and provide records. More proof. More fuel. My anger sharpened into something powerful. He thought doctors and nurses would hide his actions. He never imagined one might choose me instead. His final mistake. Word spread quietly through the hospital about what he had done, and soon an idea formed. If he had built a team to betray me, then I would rebuild my own. I asked the nurse and IT man to help me contact the original founders, the ones who had been pushed out after my husband gained influence. They answered fast, their voices carrying shock and anger. They had left because the company had changed, but now everything made sense. One by one, they visited me in secret, entering after visiting hours, hiding behind curtains in quiet halls. We talked about the company we created, the mission we almost lost. Their loyalty warmed me like sunlight after a storm. They agreed without hesitation to help gather more evidence and prepare the truth for the board. My COO joined them through encrypted messages, sending overlooked files and deleted reports. My room became a quiet battlefield, each visitor bringing more strength, more ideas. I wasn't alone anymore. A team was forming around me again, the team that built the empire he tried to steal. The IT man and I worked late into the night, screens glowing while nurses pretended not to notice. He hacked into my company systems through backup pathways he once built with me. We found hidden folders, offshore accounts stuffed with money stolen over months, millions meant for development, staff bonuses, research labs, funneled into secret banks under my husband's name. My breath shook as I read the balances. He wasn't planning to leave with just my shares. He was planning to leave with everything. Next, we found messages between him and foreign brokers, arranging asset movement once my shares were transferred. It was perfect evidence of corporate theft. My IT ally paused, then unlocked a private company chat. My husband had mocked me there, called me weak, said he would fix the company's legacy by removing me entirely. Seeing his words made my fingers curl. He thought I would never read them. He thought I would never stand again. He was wrong. We downloaded everything onto a secure drive. The revenge I had waited for was taking shape, line by line, file by file. My doctor entered one evening with careful steps. He checked my chart, adjusted my then sighed. "Your body is healing," he said. "But revenge is heavy. Stress could stop your progress." I looked him straight in the eye. "Good thing revenge keeps my heart pumping," I said, and his eyebrows lifted in surprise. He nodded slowly, as if realizing he couldn't stop me. Alone again, I stared at the ceiling, feeling my muscles twitch with restless energy. The company, my life's work, was still under threat. A board meeting was near. My husband was still smiling in interviews, and the mistress was still wearing jewelry paid for with my money. Everything pushed me toward one truth. I didn't just want justice. I wanted him to feel what I felt. Fear, helplessness, and ruin. I will finish this, I whispered to myself. My strength was returning, my mind sharper than ever. All I needed was the right moment to strike. Rumors drifted through my secret network that an emergency board meeting was being arranged. My husband had told them I was still confused, unstable, and unable to speak for myself. He wanted the final vote to remove me. I lay in my hospital bed blinking at the ceiling, fury steady in my veins. He thought the hospital kept me trapped, but the truth was I stayed because the world believed I was still too weak to fight. That illusion was my armor. The nurse rolled me in a wheelchair for therapy, and I listened as staff whispered about the meeting set for next week. I needed to act before that day. The nurse offered to stall him with updates about my slow progress. The IT man promised to track his communications. I felt my strength return in small bursts. I practiced speaking loud and clear until my voice steadied. The board thought the vote would end my leadership. Instead, it would become the stage where I rose again. My husband had no idea the woman he tried to kill was preparing to walk into that room alive. Before his next visit, I hid a tiny recorder inside the flower vase near my bed. The IT man had soldered it into the base, so no one would notice. When my husband walked in, he didn't even look at the flowers. He was too busy whispering into his phone. "Don't worry," he told the mistress. "She won't wake fully for weeks. Once the vote is done, we're set." Then he pressed his lips close to the pedals, close to the recorder, and said the words I had waited for. "After the transfer, we disappear. Her company, her assets, all ours." Rage coiled through me like wire, but I stayed limp, eyes half closed. He bragged about offshore accounts, fake documents, the car sabotage. Each confession flowed straight into the recorder. When he left, the nurse removed the flowers and handed them to me like treasure. I held the vase in my lap and felt a strange calm. I finally had his voice, his lies, his guilt, all trapped in a single device. Now nothing could save him from the truth. My real lawyer returned with sharper eyes than before. I showed him the recording and every recovery file from the IT man. He listened without speaking, jaw tightening with each new revelation. When it ended, he blew out a long breath. "This isn't just fraud," he said. "This is attempted murder, corporate theft, and identity forgery. He's going to crumble." He began mapping out a plan. First, secure copies of every file. Second, prepare legal injunctions to freeze accounts before he could run. Third, gather my team for a coordinated reveal. "One wrong move," he warned, "and he'll destroy the evidence. We need perfect timing." I nodded. I wasn't afraid anymore. His lies could not hide under my coma anymore. My lawyer paced the room, forming a strategy as neat as code. He said the board meeting would be the moment everything snapped into place. You'll walk in. He won't expect it. And then everything he buried will come out. I felt the fire inside me grow. The stage for his downfall was almost ready. The nurse rushed in one morning with wide eyes. "You need to see this," she whispered. She held up her phone. On the screen was the mistress again, this time showing off a small baby bump, wearing one of my necklaces. The caption read, "Soon our new life begins." My stomach twisted. My husband wasn't just escaping with my money, he planned to start a new family after my death. In the comments, she hinted at a future wedding. Suddenly everything sharpened. The forged will, the sedatives, the car sabotage, it wasn't just about power. He wanted me erased. Gone. Forgotten. My hands curled into fists. I had survived his coma once. Now I would be the one writing his ending. I stared at the photo until the screen blurred. Then I felt something inside me change. I wasn't simply angry. I was ready. "Let's start his funeral early," I whispered. The nurse nodded, fear and pride mixed in her eyes. The revenge arc had begun, and I was the one holding the first stone. To set my trap, I needed him to believe his plan was working. So I faked a relapse. I let my body go still, my breathing soft, my eyes half closed. The nurse dimmed the lights and alerted staff. Word reached him within an hour. He stormed into the room, face pale with impatience, not concern. "Why is she declining now?" he hissed. He begged the doctor to keep her sedated for just one more week. The doctor pressed him for a reason. My husband whispered sharply, "The board vote is in 7 days. I can't let her wake yet." Every word flowed straight into the recorder hidden under my blanket. I held my breath as he confessed everything again, louder this time. How he forged documents, how he stole money, how he planned to leave once the Widow Act ended. When he left, thinking I'd sleep forever, I opened my eyes. My strength pulsed like thunder. I now had enough evidence to burn his world down. And soon I would. The morning of the board meeting, I stood in front of the mirror wearing a dark power suit the nurse had ironed for me. My legs still trembled, but my resolve held steady. The doctor cleared me for discharge under private recovery, not knowing I planned to walk into a battlefield. When I entered the company building, the security guard gasped. Word traveled fast. By the time I stepped into the boardroom, every face turned white. My husband froze mid-speech. He had been telling them I was too unstable to attend. I walked to the head of the long table and placed my hands on the glossy wood. "Let's talk about your attempted murder, shall we?" I said. Chair scraped. Papers dropped. My husband stuttered, trying to call me confused, mistaken. Anything but alive and steady. I saw fear flicker in his eyes. The board members leaned forward, sensing a storm. For the first time in weeks, I felt fully awake. This room, my company, my future, they were mine again. And this was only the beginning. My lawyer entered behind me, carrying a thick folder that he dropped onto the table with a solid thump. "Exhibit 1, he said, pulling out recorded transcripts, screenshots, forged signatures, offshore statements. Gasps filled the room. One board member whispered, "My God." My husband tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. "She's unstable," he insisted. "She's imagining things." I clicked the recorder and let his own voice fill the room, his bragging, his plans to disappear, his orders to keep me sedated. He lunged for the device, but security stepped between us. His face drained of color. "That's fake," he muttered, but even he didn't sound convinced. I watched him crumble as evidence stacked higher and higher. The mistress's messages, the financial theft, the forged will, all of it laid bare. This wasn't just a legal blow. It was destruction with precision. For years he thought I was soft. He forgot softness can turn sharp. The board members looked at him with disgust, and for once, he had nothing left to say. While he sputtered excuses, I pressed a button on the remote the IT man had given me. The wall screen lit up with a video montage, photos of the mistress on private jets, wearing jewelry bought with company funds, lounging in hotel suites charged to corporate accounts. The room erupted. "He used company money. Who is she? Is she pregnant?" My husband grabbed his head like it might split. The montage kept rolling, screenshots, receipts, timestamps. The final image showed the mistress wearing my necklace, smiling on the jet he told the board he sold. Lies upon lies. My husband tried to shut off the screen, but the IT man controlled the feed remotely. He looked like a trapped animal now, sweating and shaking. Board members shouted questions he couldn't answer. His empire of lies collapsed in seconds, brick by rotten brick. I stood silently, letting the world see the truth. Revenge didn't need shouting. It needed proof, and I had plenty. My lawyer handed me a signed injunction. With one simple motion, I froze every one of his accounts. Personal, offshore, corporate. "Effective immediately," he explained. "He has zero financial access." When my husband pulled out his phone and tried to log in, he went pale. "It's not working," he whispered. I watched the realization hit him. He was trapped. The board voted to restore me as CEO on the spot. Their voices sounded like thunder rolling in my favor. Security escorted him out of the room as he screamed my name. I didn't look away. He had taken my identity, my power, my voice. Now I took everything back. When he reached the lobby, reporters swarmed him. "Is it true you forged documents? Did you sabotage her car? Who is the mistress?" Cameras flashed wildly. His face twisted in panic. He had come to steal my empire. Now he couldn't even afford a taxi home. The press named him the Coma con man within hours. His face flashed on every news channel, hair messy, eyes wild, hands shaking as microphones hit him from all sides. He tried to hold a press conference to defend himself, but reporters drowned him out with my name. Why did you lie about her condition? Did you drug your own wife? What about the pregnancy? He stuttered nonsense until one reporter shouted, "Her evidence looks pretty strong." His mouth opened, but no words came. I watched it all from my hospital room, feeling a strange mixture of triumph and calm. My lawyer smirked beside me. A man like him fears public shame more than prison. The nurse squeezed my shoulder, proud. The IT man high-fived me with a gentle tap. My husband had built his life on applause and admiration. Now the whole world booed him. And for the first time, he felt a fraction of the pain he gave me. The mistress cracked first. Within 2 days of the media storm, she posted a shaky video online, crying into the camera. "He lied to me," she said. "He promised me everything." She showed screenshots, private chats, plans to run, messages where he described sabotaging my car. She begged for sympathy, but the world only wanted the truth. Reporters spread her confession like wildfire. My lawyer smiled when he saw it. "She's trying to save herself," he said. And she did. She walked into the police station and offered full cooperation in exchange for immunity. She gave them dates, details, even recordings of their earlier phone calls. With every word she spoke, she pulled another brick from under my husband's feet. He had once called her his future. Now she was the one sealing his fate. The public turned sharper. Comment sections raged. People demanded justice. For the first time, I felt the world fighting beside me. He had trapped me in a coma. Now he was trapped in a storm he created. His arrest came during a conference call with investors. He was mid-sentence, trying to explain the misinformation campaign, when officers entered the glass meeting room behind him. Cameras were rolling. Investors watched from their screens as police took his wrists and snapped on silver cuffs. He tried to argue, but his voice cracked. The officers read him his rights as reporters outside shoved their microphones toward the glass. Someone leaked the video online. It went viral in minutes. CEO's husband arrested in live meeting. Headlines exploded everywhere. I watched the clip twice, once in silence, once with slow, steady breaths. He looked small, powerless, helpless, the same way I had felt waking in that hospital bed. I didn't smile, but a calm settled over me. Justice wasn't finished, but it was finally catching up to him. He had stolen my identity, my money, my safety. Now he couldn't even control his own hands. The cuffs did that for him. 3 days later, I walked into the detention center. The guards buzzed me through as if they already knew the story. My heels echoed down the hallway. When he saw me through the glass, his face twisted. Fear, anger, disbelief. He lifted the phone with shaking fingers. I didn't sit right away. I let the silence stretch until he squirmed. Finally, I picked up the receiver. "You stole my company while I slept," I said quietly. "Now you can sleep while I build it again." His mouth opened, searching for excuses, but I didn't give him the chance. I held up a small drive, the one containing every piece of evidence. "This is what you used to destroy me," I said. "I used it to destroy you." He slammed his fist against the glass, but the guard stepped in, pulling him away. I stood calm and steady. His world was shrinking to bars and metal doors. Mine was expanding again. For the first time in months, I felt free. After taking back my title as CEO, I learned one more ugly truth. He still owned 10% of the company through hidden proxies. Even from jail, he could profit from my work. I refused to allow that. My team and I dug until we found the shell companies holding his shares. Quietly, I arranged buyouts. Anonymous, clean, impossible for him to trace. When the last share was purchased, I didn't keep it. I donated all 10%, every stolen dollar, to a coma recovery foundation named after me. The message was sharp. The money he tried to take from a woman in a coma would now save people in comas. Reporters praised the move. The public called it poetic. My lawyer said it was the cleanest revenge possible. I simply felt light. He would wake every day in prison knowing the fortune he wanted now helped others heal. He had turned my pain into profit for himself. I turned his greed into hope for strangers. Desperate and cornered, he accepted a plea deal. In exchange for a lighter sentence, he exposed corrupt board members who had secretly helped him push me out. He named names, dates, payments, and secret favors. He confessed how they approved forged documents and ignored company theft. My lawyer and I listened to every detail, surprised at how far the rot reached. With his testimony, those members were removed, investigated, and replaced. My company finally breathed again, clean air after months of poison. The board apologized formally, some with tears, some with shame. I accepted the apology but never the excuses. My COO took the lead in rebuilding departments he had torn apart. I watched the company heal piece by piece. In trying to save himself, my husband exposed everyone who had stood behind him. He thought the plea deal would protect him. Instead, it protected me and destroyed the last of his allies. With the corrupt board members gone, the company felt lighter, almost new. I walked the halls with my team beside me, people who had stayed loyal through everything. My husband's plea deal had opened doors we didn't know were locked. Those who had helped him were exposed and removed. New leaders stepped in, ones who believed in the vision I started in a garage years ago. My COO and I worked late nights rebuilding the structure he had damaged. We fixed budgets, restored programs, and fired everyone who had used my coma as a path to power. The police kept updating us on his case. Even with the plea deal, his crime stacked high enough for years in prison. He tried calling me through lawyers, begging for sympathy. I sent no reply. I had no kindness left for a man who nearly killed me. He had wanted to bury my company. Instead, he helped me clean it. Justice was no longer something I chased. It walked beside me. We launched the company's new product line, Phoenix, a symbol of rising from ashes, built from an idea I sketched during recovery. The launch drew global eyes. Reporters asked about my coma, my return, my strength. I kept my answers simple. I woke up. I fought back. Now we rise. Sales soared within days. Employees celebrated, and customers flooded our inbox with support. Investors who doubted my comeback now begged for meetings. My face appeared on magazines with headlines like, "The Woman Who Returned from the Edge." Yet the real triumph wasn't the money, it was the rebirth. My company had survived betrayal, theft, sabotage, and lies. And so had I. When I walked into my corner office, sunlight filled the room. For the first time in months, I felt the future opening its doors again. I whispered to myself, "This is mine." And it was. Every part of it. My husband tried to steal my empire while I slept. Now I was wide awake, stronger than I had ever been. News came one afternoon that he was being released early. Medical grounds, the officer said. High stress, unstable blood pressure. He walked out of the prison thin, tired, and angry. No money, no power, no allies. Reporters swarmed him again, but this time he shoved past them with wild eyes. Word spread that he blamed me for everything. He said I ruined him. He said he deserved the company. He roamed the city like a ghost trying to reclaim a life he no longer owned. I expected him to hide. Instead, he hunted for me. He waited outside my office building, pacing by the glass doors. Security turned him away, but he kept returning. He wanted one last fight, one last chance to twist the story. But the world didn't believe him anymore. He had no stage left. No mask. No script. I knew he would try something reckless. I just didn't know how soon fate would answer. It happened in the parking lot after a late meeting. I walked toward my car, the air cool against my face. Suddenly, he stepped out from behind a pillar, eyes wild, voice shaking. "You ruined my life," he shouted. "Everything you have should have been mine." I stood still, calm and steady. "No," I said softly. "You ruined mine first." He lunged forward, pointing, shouting, trying to make me afraid again. But I didn't flinch. Security rushed toward us. He backed away, yelling louder, stepping without looking, right into the road behind him. A truck horn blared, lights flashed, and then he fell, rolling onto the pavement with a sickening thud. People screamed. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, watching the same fate he tried to give me now strike him. He wasn't dead, but when the medics arrived, they said one word that echoed in my chest. Comatose. Full circle. The hospital felt colder than I remembered. I walked into his room quietly. Machines beeped beside him, just like they once did beside me. His face was pale, eyes closed, body still. A mirror image of my own past. I stood at his bedside and let the moment settle. "Funny," I whispered, "how life gives back what you give it." He didn't move. He didn't speak. He had planned to take everything from me while I slept. Now he slept while I reclaimed it all. My lawyer entered with the final transfer papers. Shares, rights, assets. He placed them in my hand. I signed them slowly, each stroke a closing chapter. When it was done, I placed the pen on the table and turned to leave. I didn't look back. The hallway felt long but light. I had survived. I had won. I walked out of the hospital doors into bright sunlight, victorious, unbroken, and reborn. If you love this story, make sure you hit subscribe for more true revenge stories.